Good evening and welcome to the November 9th, 2021 Northern Lebanon School District School Board meeting. I now call this meeting to order. Thank you for joining us this evening. This meeting is being recorded. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence led by Director Murray.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence. You may be seated.
The board met in executive session November 9th, 2021 to discuss a confidential student matter. Mrs. Martin, may I have a roll call, please? Yes. Gray.
Here.
Erdman. Baller.
Here.
Marlowe.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Klein. DeKallick. Nom.
Here.
Bucks.
Here.
Director Klein absent. All of the members are present. Thank you. We move to item 2, that is the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? May I have
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. We move to item 3, that is the presentations for this evening. The high school students of the month for November are Ashlyn Messinger and Todd Dresch. This award is sponsored jointly by the Fredericksburg and Jonestown Lions Club, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Lions Club. The middle school student of the month for November is Claire Borkey. This award is sponsored by the Northern Lebanon County Rotary Club, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Rotary Club. Congratulations to all of those students. Next, we have with us this evening our student board representative, Kim Higuereta. Welcome, Kim.
Council had a lot of positive feedback for the homecoming dance in October. We were excited to hold it inside and outside. Everyone had a blast from what I heard of. Also, Council is planning the Powder Puff football game for next Tuesday. And we are working on spirit days and activities for the winter. That's all I have. You're welcome.
Thank you. Next, we move to our superintendent's report. Dr. Messinger.
I just wanted to highlight a couple of groups that have had some great experiences over the past couple of weeks with 3 of our sports teams, volleyball, the football team, and field hockey all made playoffs. And although I don't think they went exactly as they had hoped in the playoffs, programs that I think are building and soccer, boys soccer had their best year in a little while, and girls soccer had another winning season and just missed the playoffs. So a lot of success on that fall side, and cross country too had a good year and had some district runners that did a nice job for us. So looking forward to seeing what the winter holds, but a good representation with the fall. And I really want to put a shout out to our folks in the musical. If you got a chance to see it, The Wizard of Oz was fantastic, and they did such a good job. And back March 3rd, I saw it March 12th in 2020, and then everything got shut down, and that was the last performance. And so it was nice for them to be able to come back with a somewhat new cast and some returners as well. But they did a great job, and looking forward to Annie in the spring. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Now we are at item 5, that is old business. Is there any old business for discussion this evening? Then we move to item 6, that is our public comment session. Those wishing to make public comment were asked to submit that request by 4 o'clock this evening via email or online form. Tonight we have one public comment request, that is Ms. Martha Blau. Ms. Blau, please state your name and address before speaking. You have 4 minutes for public comment.
That working? Okay. Well, I seem to be the person that everybody says, well, hey, if you go to the school board meeting, say this, say that. So these aren't all my own thing. I'm sorry, Martha Blau, 112 Racehorse Drive, Jonestown. One of the things I wanted to mention was November 2nd, I was out volunteering at the polling places, and we were trying to get our write-in candidates. We weren't successful, but we did hear a lot of feedback, and I wanted to tell you some of the things that we did hear. Some people were actually surprised that the parents don't have a choice about masks here at school. That's what we were basing on, what we were campaigning on, trying to get parents' choice back in the school. A lot of people didn't seem to know who to vote for or what they stood for. They just said, well, there's 4 people on the ballot, so and then we can vote for 4, so that's what we were gonna do. And some of them thanked us for giving them names. I did hear a few times that Northern Lebanon has been a mess for a really long time and things need to change. And I've only been in the school district 2 years, so I don't know all the past history here, but I do know there are a lot of people who were behind us and feel like there needs to be change here in the school district. I even had one guy the day of hand me, I handed him some of our printouts with the write-in names on, and he was willing to volunteer because he was he believed in trying to get parents' choice back in the schools. But one thing I didn't hear, although we have a new turf field and we're building a new elementary school, I didn't hear anybody mention that. Those are nice things. They're nice to have, but they're secondary. They're secondary to what the people of the community I'm hearing want and care about at this point. If we can't get past the basics, how can we enjoy some of those things? In a little over a month's time, our 2 write-in candidates got enough votes to actually get more votes for the day of voting than 2 people on the ballot. What we missed capturing was the mail-in votes, but we know how to get those votes too now. In a year, the Governor Wolf is going to be gone, but we're still going to be here fighting for our kids, being parents, wanting better things for our school district. I had a couple parents talk to me about safety. Some concerns we had was that a student was sent out to the wrong parent because the office didn't recognize the child with a mask on and sent out the wrong kid. We've had students being sent out to parents outside without the parents being allowed to come in and sign them out. So there's some safety issues that the parents are concerned about. Everybody talks about critical race theory, and I know people have said, oh, we don't have that here. I want to remind you, it doesn't come in a pretty little box with a bow on it that says CRT stamped on the side. But I want to tell you some of the things that parents have told me that have crept in this year. It might not be critical race theory, but we need to look at what we're teaching our kids. The one parent had a kindergartner who, instead of just coloring a normal picture, they were coloring children's faces with masks on. They couldn't just have a normal face to color in, a normal person. It had to have a mask on. That's what we're teaching our kindergartners.
30 seconds.
We had a 12-year-old that had a math statistic question regarding students' sexual preferences. It was a probability of what students have this preference versus that preference. And that's things that are in the Northern Lebanon School District right now. Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes shall note that public notice was given for the meeting in accordance with Act 84 of 1986. Now we move to item 8, that is items on the consent calendar. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented? That includes items 8.1 through 8.9. May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. Now we move to item 9. That is items on the discussion agenda for this evening. Dr. Messinger, would you like to introduce those?
Yeah, letter A is an amended renewal agreement with Met's Culinary Management. Ms. Martin, you want to talk a little bit? She was just going to highlight the changes. The bottom line is the same, but this is a result of their increasing their wages, and it changes their figures in the appendix. So if you want to talk about that quickly.
Sure. The changes are on page 22 to 24 of the agreement was given to you. And these are the changes that were in the spreadsheet that I had showed you during the committee meeting. So those are changed on page 22 to the proposed rate. You can't see the current rate there because that was in the original document, and now we have the proposed rate in this one. And we increased all the starting wages to $12 an hour. And I know we had some discussion on that last week, Director Bucks. And we had gone back and forth on this with Mets, so I'm sorry that it wasn't at the forefront of my mind last week. And what we had decided on was to just increase the starting wage to $12, because over the years, they have all gotten an increase annually that Mets felt that they were still competitive with. It was just that starting rate still being at $10 an hour was not competitive enough to get employees. But because of COVID, they did want to do something for all the employees that are staying here because they have worked through short staffs and not having people to stay and do the dishes, and they've had to stay and do those. So they did want to do a bonus for the retained employees that have stayed through all this COVID and have worked on the short staff shifts for $500 at the end of the year. So that is in there. But like I said, the changes are on pages 22 to 24 for these new rates. And they did not change the guarantee that is on the front pages of the new renewal. And the guarantee is a loss of $10,000. We worked on that last year with them. And just because of last year when the high school wasn't in session all the time, the cafeterias obviously weren't able to sell and produce very many sales. So those were lower, and that's why the guarantee is a loss of $10,000 for this school year. It's based off of last year's. And we are looking to do actually better than that at this point. So that's why they didn't feel the need to change that, even though they're increasing the wages.
Any questions?
Yes, so I understand that we can vote to notionally increase wages to $12, but we don't really control that, do we?
Right. So that's why we had changed it from last week where we had the wording that said increase the wages. And now we're just approving the renewal with them, an amended renewal with them. We really don't control what Mets pays their employees. We are just agreeing to accept the additional charges that are going to be pushed onto us because we do pay the cost to Mets. So it'll come through on our bottom line. So they could change the employees' pay rates without our knowledge, but it changes the ending numbers for us at the end of the year, and it would potentially affect their guarantee. But like I said, it doesn't affect their guarantee this year because it's already, the cafeteria is being more profitable than they had predicted.
I guess my concern is how do we ensure that whatever we're paying is going toward what we intended to go toward? I mean, what I understand is next year they may come back and their employees are getting paid exactly what they're getting paid this year, but we're going to have a revised agreement that gives them more money. Is that correct?
Our agreement, they pass the cost through to us, and we do audit it that what we're actually paying is being done. So we can go in and we can see their payroll. They have to show receipts for things that they purchase to us. So yes, we do audit the numbers that they send to us, and we can review those on a monthly basis. So
Okay.
it's a direct cost passed on to the school district.
Okay.
And if they don't meet their staffing requirements, they would be in breach of the contract.
Okay.
So they're highly incentivized to increase that rate to attract the employees to run our program so we get the federal reimbursement.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And letter B, which is we have some new DB Fisher drivers, which is a nice thing for us as they're very desperately needed. 9.2 is, and this is one I emailed about a discussion on. There's an area, if you recall, in the elementary building, there was an area where we had a potential place for people to, connected to the hallway, to look out over top of the basketball court, the gymnasium. And that cost about $300,000 and was not a good use of our money. And so in essence, what was going to happen was there would be a wall that would just go straight from the floor to the ceiling, and then the same thing in the hallway. leaving an empty space over top of what is now going to be storage and bathrooms. But in order to, as we were looking at that, it's an unused hollow space. If you can, imagine like the space between the bookcases, that stretches almost the length, and I sent you the dimensions, but it stretches almost the length of the court. So it's a huge space, a very nice size space for storage, but it would be an increased cost because there's things that they would need to do in order to have that space. And honestly, internally, we've talked about it, and I think there's two trains of thought here. One is, to get storage like that, to do it later costs way more money. However, also in a situation where this building needs some work, and every penny we save from this that can be attributed back to this building is beneficial for us as well. So, at this point, we need to decide if we're going to proceed with the drawings in order to do it, and then 122,000 is the estimate. However, there would be an relatively exact figure there done by Crabtree if they pursue those drawings further. So that's where we're at. We need the board's direction on whether or not to proceed with that or to say, no, it's too much money. Let's hold off. I mean, it's a storage area with some lights and, we're not doing anything fancy to it. 2 double doors, some lights, and, yeah.
Yeah, my initial reaction to this is that if we don't have an immediate need for it right now, I would probably avoid the expense. It may not be more expensive later. I mean, right now, construction costs are going through the roof. This quote might be really high with where things are. But my main point is if we do not have a known need for it, which I don't think we did as we designed it, I would avoid it right now. What is the cost of the design work? Do we know what that is? That's not in the 122, I assume.
It's not. It's minimal. But it's not going to change if we're going to, I mean, it's one thing to say now, let's not proceed, then it's done. We're not going to talk about it again. It's not going to change that number drastically. I mean, we'll have to do, they're going to need it for the builders to be able to do it correctly, but there'll be a minimal cost for the design, nothing major.
We didn't see a need for it at the time, but do you see a need for it in the building? Since, I mean, that's your staff and what they need.
I'd rather save the pennies. That's my thought process. That's not everybody's thought process, but I'd rather save the pennies. And I know there's things in this building that need redone. I mean, we've talked about in the past, for instance, and it's different. It's a bond. But even, we've talked about curriculum cycles and programs and things that had been stopped for years. I mean, we had no curriculum development for years. We bought no textbooks for years. We've just put everything on hold. And, the goal was to try to get back into more professional development, more, ability to train teachers. And so we talk about numbers like for software and for textbooks around $150,000 that we put in budget, and that's a big deal. That's we had to bring that as a big ticket item for this. So $122,000. I mean, I get it. If we were from a borrowing capacity standpoint, if we were in great position and adding that to the bond, and adding it to the bond over time doesn't make a huge amount of difference. But it does make a difference in terms of borrowing capacity when there are things in this building that are falling apart. So, I don't know. Again, yes. Can you use storage? There's always times where you think, oh, I'd love to have additional storage. I do it in my house all the time. But, in this particular case, I'd say the 122,000. But again, that's not everybody agrees with me internally.
I mean, it would be one thing if there was massive amount of stuff and you're like, we don't have anywhere to put it. That would be a drastic need, but I'd like to see it go. Development.
Yeah, when I look at this, I tend to see 1,500 square feet at $122,000. We're basically building a small single-family home inside the elementary school for storage. And given the trajectory of construction costs for everything that we see between now on the project and what we can anticipate, I think this is I think at this point it's an imprudent investment, and I'd rather hold on to that money for other needs, whether curriculum or to offset other future rising costs of the building.
If we would wait on this and decide in 10, 15 years that we do need that storage, in my mind, I'm envisioning that it would not be that disruptive to go in and make it a proper storage area once we're in the building. Is that an okay assumption?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about the construction of it to, once it's done, to, anytime you do construction in a building, you make a mess in terms of, because it's on the second floor, in terms of what that means, I don't know enough about it to be able to feel competent to answer that one. So we should probably, my take on that, Brooke, is we maybe want to vote on that one separately. Okay, and I'll finish 9.3. We have an extension to an uncompensated leave and also a mentor for Ms. Natalie Horst for this year as well. So I guess maybe you want to vote on everything but 9.2 and then vote on that separately.
Were there any questions on 9.3?
Nine point three A and B are combined, correct? We're voting for everything.
Actually voting back to 9.
It would be 9.1 and 9.3.
What are we separating out the 9?
We're going to pull out 9.2 and do a roll call vote on that. Excuse me.
Glenn, were you thinking that you wanted to separate A and B from?
Well, I'll just go with the board's.
I'm sorry, is discussion still open on 9.3? I guess I did have a question.
Sure.
Yeah.
When we first discussed sub-item A, we discussed the impact that it might have on the children in their studies this year. Do we have an updated assessment? Are they hurting by not having this teacher permanently in place? Do we think the outlook for hiring somebody else would be different going forward, or does this basically put us in a net zero change position?
Well, Mrs. Bruce has reached out, or is in the process of reaching out to the colleges. We have actually some leads. We have some good student teachers actually that are going to be available here in December. Not necessarily in the world of music, but we are reaching out to colleges now, looking for a young, hopefully energetic, music graduate. There are graduates that come through Lebanon Valley College, E-Town College, that, we'd be glad to give a shot and see how they are, because it's getting harder and harder to fill some of those, the arts, the PEs, that they're not in abundance right now. So, we have a plan to look for someone that's, a recent graduate and fill that position in that manner. I can't predict necessarily yet. We haven't posted it, but yeah, we do have a plan to try to get a December graduate.
That's the case.
You may separate, sure, 9.3A. Okay.
Any other discussion?
If it's denied, the options are come back or.
Yes.
And approving it means
Or he would resign.
We had originally asked for his request over the holiday break. Would it hinder the administration if we were to table this until next month?
I mean, we can do an anticipated opening and try, December graduates are usually early. I mean, it takes time to go through the process. You'd post it for a certain amount of days. If it turns out to be someone who is in another district that's even a long-term position, there could be a timing component there. I mean, we can do it, but there is a time factor for us.
I don't think that this vote is easy, but I think it's necessary. I don't think any of us take it lightly, but
If we do approve this, we have a system in place, like it's working now. We would continue in January what we're doing now, correct?
We have the individual who does our band is doing half day, and then we have a substitute doing the other half day with a music background. I would look for a more permanent long-term substitute would be the plan. The person who does our band, Mr. Clark, is not available after the new year.
I don't know if this is exact, is what we're doing, I don't think it's exact, is what we're doing right now productive to the students? Are they getting adequate, because consistency, especially in a music program, is key and vital. I mean, are they
I
getting
can
it?
answer. I'll answer that in general. I mean, we're bordering on me telling you about employees, which would need to be done in an exec session. I think anytime you have substitutes filling a role, I mean, you can get some really good long-term substitutes, especially the ones that don't have jobs yet that are looking for jobs. But I think anytime you're filling a role with substitutes, and the normal teacher is there, it's probably not at the same level.
So you said if we would choose to table this, you could post an anticipated leave?
I could do an anticipated. We would have to decide in December. I don't think we could push it to January.
Are we at a benefit to table it, or is it more beneficial to vote tonight? Best scenario for you to get a candidate that we need, if we need one.
I think an anticipated would be fine. It's not going to change us reaching out to colleges and having conversations.
But will some people steer away from it because it's just anticipated? You don't think so?
Pure speculation. I mean, our hope is to actually contact education departments, get names, and contact them directly. So I don't know that we're going to get a ton of people who are actually applying to it just through the posting. And we're going to actively recruit this one.
Yeah, I do. I'm glad you brought it up. I do think this one needs a little bit more time. We only approved half a year because of the concern that if it continued to go on, that there might be an impact on the program itself. So I think it needs some deeper discussion for sure.
And to that point, I think I would like to get more feedback from administration, parents, to the extent we can get it on where this might take us.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would recommend an exec session.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the problem is the new board members won't be sworn in until the actual meeting. So to have an exec session prior to the meeting would not include new board members, I would assume. So it would be remaining board members at that executive session, but I would recommend having an exec session before that, just to.
Does that mean start early? The reorg, 5:30? So if we do the reorg, then we do exec, and then we can do the board meeting.
Do we need to motion to table the item?
Yes.
May I have a motion to table item 9.3A?
I move to table item 9.3A.
Second.
Is there any discussion? We vote on that, correct? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. Item 9.3A is tabled till the December meeting. Now we will circle back to item 9.1 and 9.3B. May I have a motion to approve items 9.1 and 9.3B?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. Mrs. Martin, may I have a roll call vote for item 9.2, please?
No, we need
Oh,
to do a motion.
I apologize. May I have a motion to approve item 9.2?
Motion to approve item 9.2.
May I have a second? Is there any discussion? Now, Mrs. Martin, may I have a roll call vote for item 9.2, please?
Yes.
Gray?
And this is, by vote yes, it is to authorize it, and nay is nay.
Erdman? Fowler?
No.
Marlowe?
No.
Murray? No. Sekalik? Nom?
No.
Bucks?
No.
0 yes, 8 no. Motion failed.
Thank you. Item 10 is several informational items.
Yeah, it's crunch time on the things we've been talking about for the joint authority. I know you haven't heard this before, but we're looking for two people to represent us for CTC and also IU 13 representatives for the Joint Authority Board. So if we know a board member wants to do it, if you know someone wants to do it, if your spouse wants to do it, please send us a name so that we can get it to them. Otherwise, I didn't tell her yet, but Kelly's going. So.
Item 11 is our reports from our representatives. Item A is our change order committee. And I believe that we touched on everything that we talked about last night, or last meeting. Director Marlowe, or Director Fowler, did we miss anything from the last meeting?
I think the only other thing that we approved a moving of the official completion date of the field just based on procurement of materials. I don't remember the exact date, but it pushes out into the March timeframe.
Yeah, it's the light poles were delayed, and it pushes into March because they're worried about snow. If it's 70 degrees in February and the ground's not frozen, they'll do it sooner, or even whenever. But if there's snow on the ground, we have to wait till the snow is gone, and they can do the work at that point. So.
Right, and it was a no cost, no impact.
Item B would be our Career and Technology Representative Report. That is Director Klein. He's not here this evening. I don't know if Director Marlowe would have an update.
I do not have an update.
Okay, thank you. Item C is our Intermediate Unit Representative, Director Murray.
Yeah, just the October report, which is already in your packet.
Thank you. And item D is our Legislative PSBA Liaison, Director Sekelic.
I sent an email to our rep recommending or requesting in January to do a roles and responsibilities workshop with the board. That's something that the new board has not participated in, and now they're a part of the old board, and we still haven't participated in that workshop, and I think that that's crucial. I think with new board members coming in, that would be an ideal time to also kind of give them background into the roles and responsibilities, as well as onboarding for new board members. I don't know if, I know that they have to go on and do the work, but onboarding is actually separate from that. They used to do it on location. I'm not sure if that'll be happening this year with COVID still, but I did let them know I would be leaving and to contact Director Bucks, but that could change. So whoever the president is, but my recommendation would be January, no later than March, to do those before you go into a full year.
IU13 is doing the onboarding. They got the flyer today, so I didn't read how they're doing it exactly, whether it's going to be in person or some sort of virtual thing, but they are doing it.
I highly recommend it. I went to the training session out in, when they did it, I had been on at the time for probably 3 years, and I was not aware of some of what I learned that day as a board member. Like, it was like learning new information. So I think everyone comes in with a concept of what they think a board member is, and this kind of helps really narrate that for you going forward. So I would really recommend as a board, do it as a group versus 1 or 2 people, because insight doesn't help anybody if it's only a couple. So.
And just to tag team off of that, February 16th, we're offering our School Law 101 for new board members and existing board members. It's going to be at a country club in York, but it will likely have a virtual element as well. You all be invited. You'll get invitations. If you need something that's done here just for you all, we will support you in that way as well. But that's usually about a 2-hour workshop.
What was the date?
16th of February, which was
Thank you.
decided today.
I remember at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, PSBA had a whole bunch of workshops, and we were actually required to attend some of them. But I think over the past year, there haven't been any of them, not even in a virtual format. So I'm hoping that
There's been a little bit of lack of communication, even in response to emails, as far as updates. I don't know if that's because at a legislative level, they've been really active, which has taken kind of a backseat for school districts, unfortunately, when we need them the most. But they do lobby, so that's kind of taken it back. But I would press them as much as you can over the year, especially going into the budget process for new board members. That can be incredibly overwhelming, and they only have a couple of months to get acquainted with it.
When you reached out to PSBA, did you reach out to Autumn Allman? Is she still our rep? Okay, I have not received any emails from her, and we used to get a lot, so I'm not sure.
If you don't hear anything by December 1st, I would recommend reaching out to them directly, making a phone call, and just saying.
Yeah, okay, thank you for reaching out. Item 12 is new business. And the first one there in item A is special recognition. So the saying goes that the only thing sure in life is change, and our board will be changing next month. We have 2 board members that did not run this year and that will be leaving us next month, and that is Rachel Sekelic and Glenn Gray. And I jotted down a few things, so they're my personal kind of feelings on these individuals as board members, but I've heard many other members of the board say that these exact things as well. So I'll start with Rachel. Rachel joined the board in June of 2017 and has served Northern Lebanon as a board member for 4.5 years. And one thing that is often said about Rachel is that she's very passionate about serving on the board. very passionate about helping kids and helping teachers be able to do their best in the classroom. One thing that I have admired Rachel for is her creativity in really trying to come up with solutions to challenges and problems. Rachel's constantly thinking when there's when we're up against the wall against something. And another thing that I've heard Rachel say a lot very recently is that she really wants to feel like she's leaving Northern Lebanon in a better place than we were in 2017. And I think many of us here feel that we are, or that you've made a positive difference as a board member for Northern Lebanon. Glenn. So Glenn joined the board 10 years ago, December 2011. So that's quite a long spread. And actually, Rachel and Glenn have seen, I think, 4 and 5 superintendents in your time. Do I have that right? So they've served Northern Lebanon through some really difficult, trying, stressful times. And in all my time when I have been a board member, when I've seen Glenn in discussions, Glenn often appears very quiet. He listens not to respond, but listens to understand. And Glenn is often the last to speak, often having few words, but those words matter. People listen when you talk. Another thing that I've admired about Glenn is that he's very much an objective listener and an objective decision maker. So not to be affected by what people before him have said or how they voted, but he makes his own decision. And finally, one thing that really made a large impact on me as a board member is that in many situations, I have seen Glenn put the team of 10 before himself and before his own opinion or before his own wishes or objectives. That he's thought about the team working together, moving forward as a cohesive unit. And that made a big impact on me as a board member. And overall, I'm sad to see both of you go. You've brought a lot of experience and wisdom to our team and a lot of passion for Northern Lebanon School District. So at this time, I'd like to ask if everybody would join me in thanking Glenn and Rachel.
Thank you very much for that. I think in closing, oddly, as I started as a board member, nothing I did was brief. Very long-winded statements at times, but I ask of this board and the board moving forward to seek out opposition. I would never want to serve on a board of 9 like-minded people. I would never want to sit up here with 9 liberal Democrats or 9 conservatives or 9 people in the middle or 9 people opposed to this. You need to listen to opposition, whether you want to agree with it or disagree with it. Seek it out and always think of the minority as much as you do the majority, because I was a minority and I got on here because I wasn't heard and my kids' needs weren't heard. So you have to listen to the minority just as much as the majority. Thanks.
You want me to talk also? So, yeah, I just like to thank everybody for the opportunity to serve the community that I've spent 40 plus years in and taught some of those years, and ran a successful business also. So it's been a real pleasure both to serve the community and to serve the district and the board. I would like to just make one comment reflecting back over these years. and that is the decisions and votes that we make as a board member. Um, There's no one on this board that I know of, and I know everybody pretty well here. They make their decisions from their heart and from the information that they have. And they do it because of their background, their belief system. But they all do it regardless of that for what they believe is in the best interest of the school district and the children that reside and learn here. And so when I look over all the votes that I've made, and I've made some that people weren't too happy after I made them, and some of the people were ecstatic because I changed my vote the other way or vice versa. But in all those votes, there's only one that I probably regret, and it was a small vote actually, but it affected workers in the district. And in hindsight, I can't change that. I'm only one of 9, but all of those decisions were made what I thought was in the best interest of the school district. And I know that I leave this district now. I'm not moving anywhere, but I'm leaving the school board with a board that, from what I've seen and the way that they have interacted with each other, that our district is in a good place to move forward with people that I trust with my grandchildren's education and with the administration and the faculty here, depending on their votes and their wisdom. So I leave sad that I'm leaving, but also, like Rachel said, I think we're in a better place than we were when I joined on, certainly, and when Rachel did. And I think I've probably talked more than I have the entire time I've been a school board member. So I'm going to stop right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to Glenn and Rachel. Although the results are not officially official at this point, the votes have been counted, and we will welcome back Director Murray for another 4-year term and Director Klein as well. And in December, we will also welcome to the board Robbie England and Kate Kimball-Tazinski. So we look forward to functioning as a new team of 10 come December. Item 12B is reorganization. So next month in December, we will meet at 5:30 for, I believe, yes, 5:30 for the reorganization meeting. That means that we are open for nominations for president, vice president, and treasurer. Any board member can make a nomination of an individual for those positions. And anybody wishing to make a nomination should submit that name to Ms. Martin. Is there any questions about that process? Is there any other new business for discussion this evening? All right, there are some dates to remember listed under item 14, so please take note of those. We have parent-teacher conferences coming up, and then our board meeting is December 7th. May I have a motion to adjourn? May I have a second? Is there any discussion?
I'm tempted to vote no just to keep you here longer.
This is a unanimous roll call vote. Your vote will be recorded in the affirmative unless you say nay or I abstain. The motion has passed. Have a good evening, everyone.